Malwini, welcome back, my Inimba family. It's your boy, and if you're new here, Sobobona, sit down, get comfortable, because today we are talking about Inimba. Mzansi Magic, 2100 hour slot, and my goodness, this episode had me clutching my chest from the opening scene. If you don't know, Inimba is that Xhosa language telenovela that's been absolutely dominating weeknight TV, the Mabandla family, the Ngukona family, Zolika and her tech mogul comeback, Lazarus and his complicated heart, and all these secrets that just will not stay buried. We are deep into season 2 now, and this week has been an emotional rollercoaster, from Azander's big homecoming to the whole Zethu pregnancy storyline that's been building and building. So today's episode picks up right in the thick of it, and listen, if you thought last episode's cliffhanger was intense, please make sure you're sitting down for this one. Grab your tea, grab your snacks, because we are doing a full scene-by-scene recap, my reactions, my theories, everything. Let's get into it. Scene 1, Cold Open, Ngukona Homestead, morning. Okay, so we open at the Ngukona home, and the mood is heavy. Like you can just feel it through the screen. Remember how last time a familiar face showed up out of nowhere to turn things upside down for Zethu? Well, today we finally get the full weight of that moment. The camera lingers on Zethu, and she looks like she hasn't slept a wink. Her hands are shaking as she's getting ready, and Namfandiso, bless her, is trying to play peacemaker, moving around the kitchen pretending everything is normal, but honestly, nobody's buying it. Tina Jackson is just chewing this roll up. By the way, every little side eye, every pause before she speaks, it's giving I know something you don't know energy constantly. And then, bam, Sydney walks in. Now, Sydney has been struggling with betrayal all week, and today he looks like a man who has aged 5 years overnight. He and Zethu lock eyes across the room, and nobody says anything for what feels like forever. I was literally holding my breath, guys. Finally Sydney breaks the silence, and he doesn't yell, which honestly is scarier, he just quietly says something like, I need to know the truth, all of it, today. And Zethu just crumbles. She doesn't answer him. She just walks out. Can we talk about this for a second? Because Sydney has been so patient this whole arc, and I love that they're not making him the villain here, he's genuinely hurt and confused, and I think a lot of us are rooting for him to get real answers. But something tells me the truth is way messier than even he's expecting. Scene 2, Kusila offices, Zolika and Lazarus. We cut to Kusila, the company, and finally, we get a lighter moment. Zolika and Lazarus are in her office, and there's champagne on the table. Remember they'd been fighting for this deal, this rare moment of triumph the teasers promised. Well, they got it. Some big contract or investment has come through, and for once these two are just happy. Laughing. Lazarus pours the drinks and there's this whole flirty back and forth where he's teasing her about finally admitting he was right about the strategy, and she's rolling her eyes but you can see she's smiling for real. Honestly, I needed this. These two have been through so much, the whole custody drama, the family pressure, Lathy lurking in the background like a storm cloud, so seeing them just be soft with each other for 2 minutes had me kicking my feet a little bit, not gonna lie. Lazarus gets a bit more serious though, and he tells her something like, no matter what happens with the families, with the company, with everything, he's not going anywhere. And Zolika gets quiet, because we all know Zolika has trust issues the size of a mountain after everything with Lathy. But she lets him hold her hand. Small moment, but it matters, okay? Write that down. But, and you know there's always a but on this show, literally as they mid-toast, Lazarus's phone rings. And his face changes instantly. Whoever's calling him, it is not good news, because he goes pale, mutters an apology to Zolika, and rushes out. Zolika's left standing there, champagne in hand, confused and honestly a little hurt. Girl, same. Scene 3, the Mabandla home, Thumeka and Zethu. Quick cutaway to the Mabandla house. Thumeka and Zethu are newlyweds, remember, still in their honeymoon glow, except this episode throws a wrench into that too. Thumeka's on the phone with someone from her old job, and we hear her half of the conversation, something about unfinished business and I told you I was done with that. She hangs up looking rattled, and Zethu asks what's wrong, and she brushes it off with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Y'all know that fake smile. We all know that fake smile. I'll be honest, I think this is foreshadowing something from Thumeka's past coming back. Remember, the show loves this blast from the past trope, that's literally been the theme of the whole week's episodes. So my antenna is up. Is this connected to whoever showed up to shake up the Ngukona homecoming? Could be a coincidence. Could not be a coincidence. We'll get there. Scene 4, back at Ngukona home, the confrontation builds. Now here's where the episode really turns the suspense dial all the way up. We are back at the Ngukona homestead, and Lazarus arrives. Turns out he was the one who got the call, because it's about his father, Zwelinzima. Strict, traditional, doesn't play games Zwelinzima. And apparently there's been some kind of collapse or health scare. The episode is a little vague on purpose here, classic soapy move, they want you guessing, but Zwelinzima is on the floor of his study when Lazarus bursts in, and Nomfandiso is already there screaming for someone to call an ambulance. Okay, I need you to understand my heart rate at this point in the episode. Because they cut, right at the peak of the chaos, to Zethu, alone outside, sitting on the steps, crying, holding her stomach. And we get this gut punch of a moment where she whispers to herself, something like I can't lose this baby too. As in, not the first time. My jaw was on the floor, guys. Has Zethu lost a pregnancy before? Is this tied to whatever painful turn her motherhood journey is about to take? Because if you've seen the promos for the rest of the week, you know things are about to get a lot more devastating for her. This felt like the show quietly dropping a huge piece of the puzzle and just moving on like it's nothing. Sneaky. I see you, writers. Scene 5, Hospital. We jump to the hospital, busy waiting room energy, that fluorescent lighting that every soapy hospital scene has, you know the one. Lazarus is pacing. Nomfandiso is praying quietly in the corner, rosary or beads in hand. And then Zethu comes in, still shaky, and Sydney is right behind her, which, interesting, because just an hour ago these two couldn't even look at each other, but now in a crisis they side by side again. Grief and fear have a way of doing that, don't they? The doctor finally comes out, and, this is very soapy, very dramatic pause before delivering news, Zwelinzima is stable, but it was serious. Stress-related, the doctor hints, maybe something deeper going on that they need to run more tests for. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief, but it's short-lived because Zwelinzima, even lying in that hospital bed, weak as he is, grabs Lazarus's wrist and mutters something cryptic, like you need to fix this before it's too late, before she finds out. Before she finds out. Excuse me? Before who finds out what? I actually pause my screen at this point, I'm not even joking, because that line is doing so much heavy lifting. Lazarus's face just drains of color. He clearly knows exactly what his father means, and it is not good. Scene 6, Zolika arrives. Right on cue, because the show loves its timing, Zolika shows up at the hospital, worried, having heard the news secondhand. She finds Lazarus in the hallway and asks what's going on, and this is where I started yelling at my TV a little, because Lazarus just lies to her. Or at least, he doesn't tell her the whole truth. He says his father's just exhausted, overworking himself, nothing to worry about. But we saw that look on his face 2 minutes ago. We heard what Zwelinzima said. So now we, the audience, know something Zolika doesn't, and that dramatic irony. Chef's kiss, honestly, even though it's stressing me out. Zolika, being the sharp businesswoman she is, doesn't fully buy it either. She gives him this look, you know the look, that I know you're hiding something but I'm going to let it go for now look, and just holds his hand instead. Girl, run the background check. I say this with love. Scene 7, Zethu and Sydney, quiet corridor. Meanwhile, in a quieter corner of the hospital, Zethu and Sydney finally have that conversation he's been demanding all episode. And it's not what I expected. Instead of exploding at her, Sydney just sits down next to her and asks, gently, what she meant earlier, about losing this baby too. And Zethu just breaks down completely. She tells him, through tears, that years ago, before they were even together, she lost a pregnancy, and she's never told anyone, not even her own family, because of the shame she carried around it. And now, being pregnant again, all those fears have come rushing back, and that's why she's been so distant and secretive lately, not necessarily betrayal in the way he assumed, but fear. Old, deep, unhealed fear. I have to say, this got me a little emotional, not gonna lie. Because up until now the narrative was framing Zethu as maybe hiding something scandalous, some affair or lie, and instead it's grief. Real, quiet grief that she's been carrying alone. Sydney's whole face softens, and he pulls her into a hug, and for a second it feels like maybe, these two are going to be okay. But, and you already know there's a but, just as they're having this tender moment, a nurse walks past with a chart, and we catch a glimpse of a name on it that isn't Zethu's usual doctor. Someone new is handling her case. And the way the camera holds on that name tag just a bit too long. That is not random. That's foreshadowing. Mark my words, we have not seen the last of whoever that is. Scene 8, back at Kusila, late evening. We cut back to Kusila, where, plot twist, Thumeka shows up unannounced, looking for Zolika, but Zolika's still at the hospital, so she runs into someone else instead. And this is where that unfinished business phone call from earlier pays off, because standing in the lobby is a face we haven't seen yet this season, someone from Thumeka's past life, before Zethu, before the wedding. The show doesn't fully reveal who this is yet, keeping it in shadow, back to camera mostly, very dramatic lighting, but Thumeka's reaction says it all. She freezes. Drops the folder she's holding. And just whispers, "You're not supposed to be here." I am screaming. Who is this person? An ex? A business partner she wronged? Family she cut off? The teasers have been hyping up family secrets all month, and I think we just met one of them walking in real time. Scene 9, closing scene, back to Ngukona home. The episode winds down back at the Ngukona homestead, everyone finally home from the hospital, exhausted. Nomfandiso is putting Zwelinzima to bed, fussing over him even though he keeps grumbling that he's fine, which, classic stubborn patriarch behavior, honestly kind of endearing in a please stop scaring us way. Lazarus stands alone in the hallway, and we get this lingering close-up on his face as he pulls out his phone and stares at a contact, we don't see the name, before putting it away without calling. And then the episode ends on Zethu, back home, lying in bed, hand resting on her stomach, staring at the ceiling. She whispers something we can barely hear, sounds like a promise, like "I won't lose you too," and the screen fades to black. Reaction wrap up. Okay. Let's just sit with that for a second, because that was a lot for one 22-minute episode. Honestly, the pacing on this show never lets up. We've got Zwelinzima's health scare hiding some bigger secret he's desperate for Lazarus to fix before Zolika finds out what I need to know. We've got Zethu's heartbreaking backstory finally coming to light, which completely reframes her character for me. I actually feel for her so much more now. We've got this mystery figure from Thumeka's past showing up out of nowhere, and that nurse with the mystery chart that I refuse to believe is just a background extra. My honest reaction. I think Zwelinzima's secret is somehow tied to Zolika and Lazarus's whole history, maybe something about how the Ndukwana family and the Mabandla family are more connected than anyone realizes, maybe even tied to Zolika's original disappearance 20 years ago. This show loves a generational secret. That's basically the entire premise of Inimba, so I wouldn't be shocked if this ties all the way back. And Zethu, my heart is already breaking for whatever's coming, because if the teasers are calling next episode's title something dramatic, we all know what that usually means for a pregnancy storyline on this show. I'm nervous. I'm bracing myself. OUTRO. Alright, that's the recap for today's episode of Inimba, and wow, what an episode. If you were watching along with me, drop a comment below and tell me, who do you think showed up for Thumeka? What do you think Zwelinzima is hiding? And are we ready for whatever's about to happen with Zethu? I want to hear all your theories, because you know I read every single comment. If you enjoyed this recap, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new here so you don't miss the next one, and turn on notifications because, trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Based on what's been teased, next episode is looking like it's going to hit even harder, especially for Zethu and Sydney, so get your tissues ready, seriously. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you right here for the next Inimba recap. Bye, family.